Hello everyone and welcome to Niagara Reds TV for the match preview for the Toronto FC versus Minnesota United game at BMO Field, kicking off at 8 p.m. on Friday, April 19th. Here to help me break it all down is our Niagara Red from overseas, Donal McCann.
Hey Donal, how's it going, mate?
Not much. It's getting late over here, but all good.
Yeah, you look a bit tired, but happy you could join us, I'm sure.
Yeah, no problem.
So we're just doing the match preview here for the Minnesota United game coming up on Friday night at BMO. Not too much between the teams when you look at where they are as far as point totals and records. So Minnesota comes into this game at 3-2-1, 6th place in the East on 10 points, and TFC comes in at 3-1-1. In the West for Minnesota, and TFC comes in at 4th place in the East on 10 points at 3-1-1. So record-wise and point-wise, there's not too much to separate them. Minnesota coming into this game, their first 5 games were on the road. They won 3 of those games, scoring 11 goals. TFC has conceded 4 goals in 3 games at home. So the first thing that strikes me a bit there is, with the defensive frailties that we're experiencing right now, that we're really going to have to try to tighten things up here and be sound coming into this game, because you have a team that is coming into BMO Field that is carrying some road form and has able to score on the road.
Yeah, obviously it showed in against Chicago and against Seattle as well that we can score goals, but we're leaky at defense at the minute. Obviously, the defensive pairing of Mavinga, he's just they just haven't quite got to know each other that well, and there's obviously some communication background or breakdown. So yeah, basically, if they can't stop the leakage at the back, it's going to cause an issue. So that's obviously the main concern, like we talked about on the last episode there. It's a major thing that they need to get squared away. And I read in an article a couple of days ago, Mavinga was talking about the struggling and still communicating in English, but I think that seems to be a bit of a lame excuse considering he's been around for so long. You should be able to communicate with your guys, even if it's just simple words. You should be able to know what it is. So I just think they just need to get it together and really strengthen up at the back. So.
Yeah, too right, and I'm sure that's something we'll talk about when we get into the team selection. Some news out of TFC, out of training today, from the Kia training ground and the media scrums in regards to injuries and who may not be fit for the game. So Minnesota in the close season, they really worked on trying to strengthen things at the back, and they brought in Alonso from Seattle, brought in another Slovak holding 2 holding midfielders to sit in front of their back 4, and then they also brought in Iko Para, who was a long time center back at Kansas City, and then they brought in a fullback as well in Roman Mitanier. So I think that they've had some problems settling. They have conceded some goals too. So they've conceded, I believe they conceded 14 goals. Or 11 goals, I believe they conceded, I'm sorry. But they've conceded some goals. They've had their struggles defensively. So there's that going for us as well, is that this is a Minnesota team that has some changes. They also brought in a new keeper on loan from Reading. They've had some issues in settling their squad and bedding their squad in as well. So that goes in our favor. I had a chance to watch the Minnesota United game and NYCFC game, and you and I were talking before the show, what they like to do is sort of the same thing that Seattle was getting at us, is down the flanks. And so Minnesota generally lines up in a 4-2-3-1. where they've got the 2 holding midfielders sitting in front of the back 4, as I said, and then they've got their 3 attacking midfielders in behind a number 9. And they like to get the outside of the attacking 3 higher up the pitch and in behind the defenders. They're pacey, so they can get forward, and then they like to get their fullbacks involved with overlap up the pitch. And if you don't have those wide players that TFC doesn't have and that we're chasing at the moment, which is similar to what we saw at Seattle with their fullbacks getting involved in the play, that could potentially hurt us with stretching out our back line. And when we get into formations and how I think TFC might combat this, without having that threat on the wing and being able to track back and help, and also that threat to get forward and keep their fullbacks in check and not allow them to get higher up the pitch because we're a threat on the wing. I think that might be a battle that TFC is going to have to win is wide. Because if we're letting their fullbacks get involved and stretching out our back line, stretching out our fullback, and then our center back has to come out and deal with the overlap as well. That's just going to give space for the center of the 3, Darwin Quintero. He wants to play close to that number 9, and that's exactly what happened against New York City FC. Was when that back line got stretched out, you saw him get forward higher up the pitch and play in behind the number 9, which is where he wants to be close to and link up with Rodriguez, their number 9. So that's a bit of danger that I spotted in watching the game and how they play. And again, we spoke in the TFC Weekly about the threat that Seattle played down the wings and how not having attacking options on the wing could hurt us defensively. And I think this is one of those cases where we're really going to have to win that battle on the wing.
Yeah, like if they're going to be playing a kind of like a high press formation like I have been doing, then I think you can either match high press with trying high press, or you're just going to have to catch them on the counter. And obviously, Minnesota have conceded 11 goals. TFC have only conceded 8. So although we have the previous 2 games for us have kind of shown that we've got defensive errors, we still haven't conceded as much as Minnesota have. So they are vulnerable. So although they're pushing guys forward and they are using the wings, they maybe just haven't found the fitness to get back and find out how to play that way. So they could be vulnerable, and if they are going to play that sort of formation, that style of football, then catching them on the counter could be pretty easy. So as long as Banny's done his homework and is able to match him in some way, or if he is going to play the counter, like I said, it's early in the season and Minnesota just haven't quite gelled it. They haven't matched both sides of the game yet, and so I think TFC, as much as their defensive errors, they could have an opportunity here to, especially if they strike first. Minnesota will be them pushing forward and will kind of show gaps in their game, and TFC can exploit it. So I think it's kind of first goal wins in my opinion as far as this game is concerned.
Yeah, for sure. I think you'll see in my score prediction that I think that when you have these 2 types of teams that are kind of working through some bringing new players and working through betting new players and getting, in TFC's case, getting defensive relationships reestablished, that I think that we're going to see goals this game, especially based on what the 2 sides have done up to this point. So for Minnesota, as I said, the way I see them lining up is, again, keeping this place in goal. Metanier, the right back. Aiko Para in the New York City FC game had a clash of heads and has had 7 stitches put in his head since that game. And in just reading some articles yesterday, Adrian Heath, the manager of MNUFC, said that this game might just be beyond him, which would be a massive blow to them, but would be good for us with them missing their best center back. So if that were the case, then Kalman would probably come in at center back, who replaced him during the NYCFC game. Coxel, Calvo make out the rest of the back 4. the two holding midfielders they talked about earlier, and then that front three, or the midfield three of Finley, Quintero, and coming back into the side, I think I see Rasmus Schuler, who was hurt. He was replaced by Romario Ibarra in the NYCFC game, but Schuler actually made an appearance in the NYCFC game in the second half. So, and then the number 9, Rodriguez. So that's how I see Minnesota United setting up. Again, it would be a massive blow for them if Opara weren't able to play, just to help combat the physicality of Josie Altidore. But we'll have to wait and see. But it doesn't look like he's gonna make it. And then I'll get into my team for TFC, and you can tell me what you think. But I think that I see TFC lining up in the same way that they went to against Seattle in the second half, which is a 4-5-1, and I think this is the way they lined up against Chicago as well, if I remember correctly. So across the back, left to right, I've got Moro, Mavinga, Moore, and Oro. I've got a midfield 5 of Osorio, Bradley, Delgado, and De Leon, and then just in front of that 4, I've got Pozuelo sort of playing in between the lines between those 4 and Altidore up front. So again, looking for, I think when we're not in possession, I've got Osorio, and the way they set up against Chicago, I believe they had Oreo on the left of that midfield 4. But I expect when we're not in possession that he'll probably maybe tuck in and become a little bit narrow, and then even when we have the ball, cutting in from that wing or from that side, from that left side, and then getting Moro involved in an overlap, and vice versa with Oro and De Leon on that other side, creating some 2v1 opportunities, or trying to create some 2v1 opportunities like they did against Chicago. So, sorry, forgot the keeper. For me, I don't know if you agree with this one or not, but Westberg keeps his place. Bono, for me, there's something, he's just lacking confidence right now. It just seems like with his distribution and some of his decision making, I thought he was at fault for the goal that Chicago scored, the first one where that ball was played over top, and Mavinga recovered. But the positioning, it seemed like Bono didn't read the situation well, or got caught in two minds and was unsure whether to come forward or whether to stay and close down the angle. And then some of his distributing as well has just been hasn't been great for me. So I think for me at this point, Westberg, I mean, yeah, he conceded 3 goals against Seattle, but I mean, it wasn't really down to him. It was down to the poor defending. So for me, he keeps his place. But
yeah, no, I think goalkeeping. I think Bono, as a shot stopper from range, probably is one of the outstanding keepers in that front. I think he's shown over the past couple of years some friggin' unbelievable saves he's made, but some of the errors he's made as well have been absolute howlers. And you don't become a great keeper by constantly making those howlers. In his first season, when he kind of came in halfway through, you kind of expect that. Maybe first half of the next season he plays, you maybe still see that a little bit of his game. But by this stage of playing for TFC at this level, for playing international football, you can't be still being caught in two minds whether to comfort. Like that's natural. You may make a couple of mistakes where you misread it, but he's doing that more often than not. I think Westberg offers the experience. What is he, 32 now? And I like the way he does distribute from the back a little bit more. I feel that, I always have felt that goalkeepers who just kick the ball up the field and hope for a 50-50 win is just stupid. If you're comfortable enough to play out from the back, you should, because you're keeping possession of the ball, right? You're not just throwing it up there and maybe it come right down the pipe again. So I like the way he's confident enough to distribute from the back. Obviously, maybe he hasn't played with the team enough to be as comfortable as he can, but he still shows that he's one to do it. So I think Westberg should keep his place. I think, and obviously Vanny put him in there because the travel and etc. Like he wants to play the alternate keepers on West Coast games, but I think he should give him a chance to play a back-to-back game and see how he does. Otherwise, in the lineup, I think you're not going to really change too much. The defense is the defense. That Morrow, or Moore's not back, so you can't really change much there. I don't think really anything else changes. And I think PSG are going to overload them passing wise, and so I think if they can keep possession of the ball and keep their pass rate up, like they have done this season, I think they should be able to hold out no problems.
Just a bit of news from training that I actually saw before we came on here was Oro participated in the full session today, so it looks like he's fully fit. Moore trained on his own apparently, but in speaking to him after the training session, the media scrums, he seemed confident that he would be involved. So hopefully he is involved on Friday night. I think that would be massive. I know,
like someone like him, I think involved may mean on the bench. Like just he's involved in the first team. I can't see him being put right in there. I think just getting back into training and just throwing him in for the sake of throwing him in. Like I said last episode, would just be silly. Like obviously Oro is fully fit, and if he's fully fit to play, then he can offer a bit of decision making on Vanny's point whether to put him in or not. But I think Moore you gotta wait another time. Like obviously bring him into the mix, but I wouldn't risk him. I don't see there's a point in risking him. I think you got to give these guys still a bit more of a chance to communicate and get it together, because there may be other parts of the season that they're going to have to do it. Moore's getting older; he may not be as fit, or he's injury prone, obviously. So who knows when he might go out again? You need these guys to start working together. So if you can get another game with those two at the back, then just stick with it. See how they go. See if they've learned from last week and the week before, and go from there.
So it sounds like, from talking to you, it sounds like maybe you'd take more out of my 11 and start with Simon than at
I think as much as Moore offers the reliability and stability and experience, I just think injury wise, is it wise to put him in? Is it, if he's a 25-year-old player who can respond well, like quicker to injuries, but he's not that age anymore, and
it's a valid point.
The next, you don't want to bring him on and 10 minutes into the game he's re-injured again, and then you're off and you've just wasted a sub and you're back to the position, whereas you could have just left him on the bench to start the game and maybe bring him on for the last 10-15 minutes depending on the play, get him a bit of minutes with the team, etc., and then prep him again for the next game. I think that's the better option for me as far as just health wise. Does it mean that it's going to be losing a bit on the defense? Maybe, but I think just for health wise, long term, looking over the season, I think I would keep him on the bench and bring him in later on in the game just to get a few minutes of football under his belt.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Okay, mate, prediction time. Your scoreline.
I would like to say 2-0 to TFC, but I don't know with the defense that they could keep us clean sheet, so I'm going to say 2-1 TFC.
I'm along the same lines as you, but I've gone for one more goal on either side, and I'm going to say 3-2 to TFC. Massive game early in the season, and we talked about in the TFC Weekly show that we'll be looking for TFC to respond after taking 1 point from 6 in the last 2 games, where they got the draw at home and then the loss to Seattle. So hopefully we'll see a response here from the Reds and pick up 3 points.
Yeah, like it's not a giant that they're playing as far as team wise. So this could be a good team to face after such a let's say a crappy defeat, but a defeat that maybe shouldn't happen if it wasn't for the defensive errors. So come back, hopefully I've had time to fix those, plug those up, at least put some band-aids on it for now, and then it's a good chance for them to maybe score a couple of goals and just get some more confidence going forward. So yeah, it's a good team, I think, to face to bring the confidence back.
Too right. All right, mate. Well, if I don't talk to you Saturday for the recording of the review show, then hopefully we'll see you next week for the second episode of TFC Weekly.
Yeah, for sure, and then enjoy the game. It should be a good game, and I'll try my best to stay up as long as possible to watch it.
The good thing,
this hour difference, it's kind of hard. Actually, resorting to games the next day, but
that's why they have recordings. That's why they have recordings. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I try and stay away from the social media until I watch the recordings, and then go from there. But who knows? Maybe I'll have a pep in my step that night, so we'll see.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, cheerio.
Well, that's it for us today. We'll have our match review up Sunday. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you soon.